another dinner table conversation, even though, again, I never seem to be eating dinner. I'm eating chocolate cake. And I'm actually really curious if anybody knows, how does chocolate cake manage to stay so moist when I keep it in the freezer? Because I don't know, I put almost everything in the freezer because, I don't know, it keeps everything fresh, and then, like all my vegetables. When I go on vacation, I usually throw all of my vegetables, anything that can spoil, I put it in the freezer. So when I get back, it's not all like rotting and like smelling up my freezer, or my refrigerator. Anyway, so I got my chocolate cake and I got a glass of almond milk to go with it because I just got out of work and I was just so tired today. I just couldn't function. And I mostly was like, in addition to doing work, I had my personal computer and I was watching the UN General Assembly. I've been like somewhat following it, but it's just sometimes it just feels like people are just complaining about like, this is an issue that we have and we haven't really done anything about it, especially like on these SDGs. It's like, there's one guy, I can't even remember what country it was because I had so much going on, but he was saying, my country has done all these things to protect the environment. And I'm like, basically it's like, well, what are you guys doing? So, I don't know. I feel like the UN, it's really important because I really am interested in international relations. I'm really, international anything, because as you know, I speak many languages and I travel a lot and I do like building global connections. So I really like to pay attention to kind of see like what's going on. Because like when they address issues within their own countries, it's like, oh, okay, what are other countries' concerns? What is their, what are their problems? What are things that their refrigerator's making noise? It's like, what issues are they kind of dealing with and what solutions, because kind of like sharing perspectives of how they're solving issues, especially because like SDGs, we were supposed to, get to that point where these 17 issues are mitigated by 2030. And 2030 is 7 years away. And majority of the countries that we're looking at are democratic governments. So like they're elected officials, and they're usually different leaders at every UN versus like, a country where they might have like a monarchy. The monarchy is still going to stay the same, over time. But like with elected officials, like in the United States, that means like in the United States, most likely every 4 to 8 years, there might be a different person going before the UN. And they might change, they change cabinets, people leave, they quit, whatever. So there's always different people, changing out all these different things. And it's like we're addressing the same issues, but there's different people addressing it. So I feel like sometimes that can create an issue in terms of like things getting slowed down. And then sometimes when people get elected, they may not have the same values that the previous one may have. Like you might have one president who's like, yeah, environment, let's protect it, blah, 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 let's do it, but then another president might really focus more on business. They may focus on like oil and gas. Prior to that, then like the heavy focus is like, the war in Ukraine. And so, which I thought was hilarious how like they're at like, I think it was like the Security Council, they're talking about condemning the war in Ukraine, and then Russia's sitting there and they're like, well, the West is interfering with all these things. And I'm like, you do realize that you do realize that you are a part of an organization that has it was started with different countries in the West for the most part, if I'm getting my facts correct. So it's like, why are you here? It's like everyone hates you. So it's kind of hilarious. And then, so that's basically what I've been following. But the real reason why I wanted to, talk about this was, talk on camera, dinner table conversation. The reason why this conversation is happening is I wanted to open a conversation about traveling, because I was thinking of the fact that, in a week or so, I have to go to Vegas for a conference. I was telling one of my coworkers this because I was going to be out, and she was going to have to cover for some, things for me. And, she's like, for me, I was like, I'm not, don't get too excited. I'm not going to Vegas to gamble because I work way too hard for my money to just give it away. And I'm going there for 3 days and I'm going to be back. And then I'm also taking a week off right after that from work because I really feel like I'm burnt out. And, I was thinking like, oh, like, they're like, Jazz, yeah, that's great. Like, that's awesome. You get to go places. I'm kind of jealous. And I'm like, what do you mean? I was like, you just get to go places. And, it kind of reminded me of how much I do really enjoy traveling. I haven't traveled in a little while. The last place I went was Mexico because I was there for family. No, I was there for a friend's wedding. Actually, no, I take that back. It's September. Yeah, the last time I went out of town I went to Cleveland for Labor Day weekend. And so when I look at those kinds of things, I'm like, yeah, those are things I get to do, because there are a lot of people who actually don't have those types of, things. They want to have, I realize it's kind of like a privilege to be able to have the opportunity to do so, because part of it is like I kept going to Vegas for business, not mainly for pleasure. And and I was in Nashville a couple weeks ago because for same business reasons. And so it's just, I realized that, yeah, it's like for me, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to rent a car and things like that. But the thing is, I don't own a car. So I'm like, renting a car is really nothing, compared to having to make a car payment every week and then hope and pray that your car makes it all the way for 3.5 to 4 hours worth of driving, and these cars are well maintained. You purchase the insurance and you don't have to pay it every month. You just pay it per day that you're using it, and it's really cheap. So, and I realized that these are things that we get to do, or that I get to do. People in my team, my organization, they get to do these kinds of things, it reminded me of the fact that, I really enjoy traveling. I really enjoy, interacting with other people. The only thing is that trying to make sure, for me, is I'm a very big planner, so I have to make sure that all of my plans are all the details are thoroughly planned out, because the one thing I hate is last minute, trying to find accommodations is a whole thing. And it's especially if you're going with someone, I feel like anytime, if you've ever gone on a family vacation, you have to coordinate with everyone, make sure everyone's packed, make sure everyone gets where they need to go on time. And sometimes that's not always possible. With road trips, road trips are a lot more flexible because you leave when you want, you drive when you want, versus if you're going on a plane ride or a train or some type of public transportation that you pay for. It's hey, we got to go, or we're going to miss, our flight, or we're going to miss our train or something like that. For the most part. But I overall feel like, it's, and I think about this because I was talking to someone at work a while ago, around the time early on when I first started this job, and I was talking about all the things I was doing. And again, for me, this is normal, and I realized that for other people, it may not be normal. Oh, you speak all these languages. And I realized that more and more that's a unique ability, because everyone's always shocked when I say that. For me, I'm just I speak 10 languages, and I'm just, I try to maintain all of them. And it's to me, it's just a normal thing. But again, it's not. Apparently, I'm learning more and more, Jazz, it is not a normal thing for everyone. So, for me, like I said, for me, it's normal. And I was telling him all these things, and I said, yeah, that's really inspiring. because I don't do anything. I don't travel as much, and I don't talk to my roommate as much. And, I realized, that's not, that's not a completely, I wouldn't say that's the way I would want to live, So, because I feel I have to do something. I love going home because I am a homebody. I am a stereotypical Cancer. I like being in my home, and I like to make sure that my home is a place where I can comfortably come in and, not have to worry about what's going on outside in the world. But I still, for the most part, feel it's important to kind of, venture out. I remember one year when we were going to go visit my brother's college. This is before he started. And my dad told me that he was talking to the person who rented him the car and said, yeah, I've never been outside of, Lexington. I'm he's like, what? You've never been? No. It just feels to be in one space for your whole entire life. I remember when I was 18, by the time I was 18, I was moving out. I was going to California. I was get me out of here. I don't want to be here for the rest of my life. And I think at my point in time, I really don't even know if I'm going to be here, long term, forever, and, because I feel I want to kind of see more of the world. And I'm only 26, so I still feel I have a whole lot more to see. And I'm not so much concerned about like my relationships, because I feel like relationships are going to come and go. And, you know, as a Christian, I just feel like, you know, God will bring me whoever's supposed to be in my life if they're supposed to be in my life. But until then, it's like my main focus is like, I want to basically get everything off my bucket list as much as I can while I'm young, and while I have the energy, you know, before I get, you know, have to get into the mindset of settling. And I was talking to somebody for a project that I can't tell you who it is at this moment in time, because it's not announced yet. But I was talking to her, and she was saying that, because she's in her early 30s, and she was saying that, yeah, like I used to love traveling all over the world. She lived in Bali for a while. You know, she lived in Mexico before that, and she stays a little bit more close to home, just because, you know, as her parents are getting older, it's like, you know, it's important to like kind of stay close to home. It's like, you know, you're not fully, you know, like settled. It's like, yeah, I still want to travel, but it's like, but you still want to have more of a home base, versus like when you're in your 20s, it's like, I will live anywhere. I'll put everything I own in a backpack. Yeah. So that's kind of my perspective on that. Is I realize that it's a privilege to be able to get to see and interact with a lot of different people. Another thing that I kind of feel like I'm going to talk about is, as I'm chewing my dessert. But anyway, another thing I really want to focus on is just kind of like burnout, because I also feel like sometimes, because I'm doing so much, I sometimes can feel like I'm kind of falling behind, because I know like at my job, you know, I love my job, and I talk about my boss and how much I love the, you know, the courts, you know, working the court system, even though I'm the only person that is not in law. So sometimes I notice that you know, I've been like a little bit more like snippy on the phone. I wouldn't say like rude, but I would just say like more of like, I'm more to the point, and I'm more, I would say not as argumentative, but it's like I'm a little bit more assertive in terms of what are you asking me to do. And then, you know, like when you kind of feel like, this person's making me do work at work, you know, shocker. But no, especially because like, you know, especially like when you're exhausted. And I think that's also part of burnout, is like because part of my job is it's demanding, because people will call and text me all the time asking for something. Like they might be asking for, like, the common question I get all the time is like, you know, questions about, you know, like, what's the judge's Zoom link? And, you know, like, I get it. You've never worked for the, you know, we've never, you know, had this judge before, because my boss, she's a brand new judge. Like, well, I wouldn't say brand new, but in January she was a brand new judge. And so, you know, yeah, the Zoom information for remote court has changed. But, you know, when you get it constantly, and sometimes it's like, I get it, you know, you need the information. So I started kind of like being like, yes, it's on this website. Yes, it's on this website, you know, or I'll send them a link. Here's the link. It's on this website, bookmark it. And I'm like, please don't ask me. And in my mind, I'm thinking, please don't ask me again. You know? Yeah. So, I mean, it's just sometimes, especially like when you're a secretary or a receptionist, and which I think is a common issue. I wouldn't say issue, a common like thing that is with, you know, secretaries and receptionists and assistants is you're the gatekeeper, and basically everyone goes through you. And, you know, it's funny because our staff attorney, she was saying like, it's like, oh, like, I don't mind answering the phone because I don't get many phone calls. I'm like, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. And I remember like when I was gone, when I was in, I want to say like, not when I was in New York, but I want to say like when I was gone. Oh yeah, I was gone for my brother's graduation. And then on top of that, I was also gone a couple of additional days because I was in Mexico for that wedding. And I remember I came back, she said, Jazz, I like tried to answer your phone, and then other times I was like, I don't want to answer your phone anymore. No, I'm good. I'm good. So it's just like burnout, and I feel like maybe my attitude towards my job will change a little bit more after I've had some time away, because I feel like it's easy to get complacent and get annoyed. Like today, it was like, I don't know, like I think my boss was like printing a whole bunch of stuff for her docket tomorrow, because today's Thursday, so tomorrow we have dockets every Friday. And I remember like just getting so annoyed of the printer going off every 5 seconds. I'm like, oh my gosh, stop printing, you know. But the thing is, it's like, you know, like when you get like to like where like little things just start annoying you. And I also have sensitive hearing. Oh, actually I have sensitive everything, because I'm also a highly sensitive person. So I'm like, oh my gosh. And then the day actually kind of started off a little bit weird, because my boss got there when I did, and that threw me off, because normally I like to have like an hour to myself, like quiet, nobody talk to me, that kind of thing. And so that kind of threw me off, because I think she had to drop someone off and she decided to come to work, and so it threw me off. And I was like, okay. So I was like, okay, like, I can't help that, one day out of however many. And because like the main reason why I get to work early is so that I have that time, so I have all my stuff done before she gets there. So that way, like, I feel like, it's productive time. And the phones are not ringing when you're trying to work. But yeah, I mean, I just think that for the most part, burnout is normal. And I feel like after a while, like for me, I'm a workaholic, but I realize that even as a workaholic is that sometimes you can get burnt out to the point where it's like it can sometimes feel like you're taking your job for granted, or you feel a little bit more annoyed with people. In my case, like anytime someone asks me to do something, and it takes me away from my train of thought. And I had one day where it was just like one thing after another, and I was just like, everybody just leave me alone, So, so I'm really looking forward to the first week of October, because that way I will have time to myself. And I'm hoping that, like I said, I think sometimes you just need that time, because I have a lot of comp time that I've accumulated over the past 9 months since I've been at this job. So, and you can't have more than like 110 hours of comp time. So I'm planning on basically using that to take a week off, so I can kind of kill that whole big chunk of time, and then also focus on me, and especially because that week that I'm taking off is it's the week of my baptism. Like it's because October 6th, 2014 was when I was baptized. So this year will be 9 years of baptism. So I'm really happy about that, and I know that next year it's going to be 10. So I'm very, very proud about that and my decision when it comes to my faith. And so I feel like that's a perfect time to take a week off. So I'm hoping to kind of like, my plan is not to use the whole week to just sit and pray and read scripture every day, all day during that week. My plan is to do, some of that, maybe to start my day off, but I want to focus on some things in my nonprofit. I do want to focus on aspects of, my personal life, just like to get my house in order a little bit, and wake up past 6 o'clock. Like I wake up every day at 4 o'clock, which I love waking up early, because I feel like I have more time to kind of prepare myself mentally before I go out the door. And at the same time, I also feel like if I can sleep until 6, it's like 6 to me is like, it's early enough to where, the sun is not up. Like for me, I do not like to wake up at like noon, because I know some people do. If you like to sleep in that late, that's perfectly fine. But for me, I like to be able to get up and have breakfast and literally watch the sun rise. And that's basically, like, I feel like my day just, like, I feel like I just missed something, if I wake up and the sun's already up. That just makes, like, for me, that's just kind of like, it's just weird for me. And then also considering, like, biblically, the Bible talks a lot about like how we're supposed to get up early in the morning. Like when it comes to accomplishing things, God speaks early in the morning. And also, not to mention, like when you get up early, you have so much time to do whatever. I can do yoga a little bit longer. I can take my time brushing my teeth and washing my face, and take time to make myself a nutritious breakfast and like shoving like a granola bar or something like that. Just to be more holistic. So I feel like, if you're feeling burnt out, or if you have had experience of being burnt out, I feel like sometimes you might think, if you're like me, like a workaholic, I used to be like upset, like when people were talking about like things that they were doing, I'm like, oh, that person's taking a day off and they're taking care of themselves and getting a massage and like going to run errands and like things. I used to get, I don't know why I get so resentful. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I can't. And it's like, actually, no, you can't. And it took me years to realize, like, yes, I can do that for myself. Jazz, you should do that. Don't be resentful for other people taking care of yourself. Because in my mind, I was like, we gotta keep going. And it's like, no, we don't have to keep going, Jazz. Don't keep going. So it's something I had to like learn because then, like I said before, it affects my mood, it affects how I interact with people. You know, things can be annoying, and especially as a person who's highly sensitive, where, you know, I can get easily overstimulated. Like today, like with the printer going off, and then, you know, I think my boss was talking on the phone and it was kind of loud, and so I was just like, because like I said, my senses get overwhelmed, and then like, you know, because like I said, I have hypersensitive hearing. I can hear from my office to all the way down the hall sometimes, and it's like, over time I just realized I'm overstimulated. So what I ended up doing was I actually went to the bathroom, because all the judges' offices, they have bathrooms. So I was like, I'll just go to the bathroom down the hall, because no one really goes in there. You know, no one goes in there often. So it's quiet, and I just sat on the toilet and just was like, I just need a moment. So I just think that what I'm realizing, and what I, you know, from my own experience, like, don't think that I'm giving you advice, because I'm still trying to learn to take it myself. You know, is that we have to learn how to take care of ourselves, because it does affect how we interact with other people. You know, like I was saying, like overstimulation, like when, you know, like you're annoyed at your boss for something, and it's like, you're not really annoyed, you're just overstimulated, you need to leave. And it's like, you know, and sometimes we may feel like we need to stay in that environment. It's like, no, if you feel overwhelmed, do what I do, go to the bathroom and just take a moment, you know, or go somewhere quiet, you know, because that's just, for me, I love quiet, I love peace. I'm an introvert, so for me, it's just like peace. That's why I love living by myself. It's just that, you know, there's always peace, you know, outside of maybe like neighbors or something like that, but that rarely doesn't annoy me as much. So, you know, it doesn't annoy me because it doesn't happen very often. But yeah, so I just hope that this opens a conversation about burnout. And I know it started off with like the UN and like traveling, but that too, you know, it is great to be able to take some time to get out and do things for yourself. So like I said, I'm kind of more or less speaking to myself, because I don't really always do these things, but I feel like if we don't take time, then it affects everything else. And, you know, just so anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts at the dinner table in the comment section. So please leave a comment and like and subscribe, and talk to you all later. Bye.